Welcome to Masters of the Barebow. In Volume 3, world champion archers Rod Jenkins and Larry Yen will provide you with the keys to building your own consistently accurate shot regardless of aiming method.
You know, I'd shot a blank bail, or blind bail as some folks call it, for several years and never really understood what a perfect tool it is for developing one shot until I spent 3 days with Lynn Cardinelli. The blind bail, simply put, is just some sort of medium. Its purpose, its one and only purpose, is just to catch arrows. There's no target. It's all about learning. And say, for instance, if you had a kid that was wanting to learn to box, you wouldn't put him in the ring with a pro for the real thing, a real match. You'd put him on a heavy bag, speed bag, and he'd learn each aspect of his craft before he got in the ring. Same way with the blind bail. You can learn all the different pieces before you introduce the target to the shot. Most of the guys that I know learn to shoot a bow in absolutely the wrong way. Their entire object when they pick up a bow is hit something versus trying to run a perfect shot without worrying about hitting something. The blind bail is great because it takes a focus off of hitting because it has no target. It's just there to catch arrows. And we can focus on each individual aspect of our shot until we find our perfect position, groove it to the subconscious, and let the subconscious repeat it flawlessly every shot. Remember, when you're blank bail shooting, you have to resist aiming. All the focus should be on each individual aspect of your shot. When I'm working on bow hand, my total focus is on bow hand. And that's the beauty of blind bail. Take a target out of the equation, bring all your focus on whichever part of the shot you're working on with no aiming.
People are going to want to know why you have this piece of tape on your nose.
It's because I got a big nose and it gets away in the bowstring. No, actually, you know, I'm a gapper, so I'm using the arrow, get the eye over the arrow. It brings my big nose too close to the string when I've got that good tight alignment, and I rub it a little bit each shot. And 200 arrows, it'll be a big red bloody spot. After we have everything grooved to the subconscious, when we go back to our point of trying to hit something, we're free to aim and aim only. I think Lynn Cardinelli calls it immersed in aiming. A lot of guys call it burning a hole. The main thing is we let the subconscious run the shot, and we're free to do nothing but aim with a conscious mind. When I'm working on the blind bail, I break it down to 7 individual drills and totally focus on each one of the parts of the shot during the blind bail drill. Our ideal stance is going to be feet shoulder width apart, relaxed, and balanced. Now, I'm not saying we can't cant the bow or go to different positions, but on the blind bail, let's get this one down perfect and then take it with us when we cant the bow or in oddball positions. Okay, we lay the arrow on the ground to indicate the line to the target. This arrow is pointed exactly to the target. What Daryl's sitting in now is in a closed stance. He moves the foot forward to, this is a slightly open stance. During a blind bail practice, we can practice and experiment with each one of these positions to find one that gives us the best bow reaction. And that's what we're looking for in all our blind bail drills, is letting the bow tell us how it wants to be shot. And what we're looking for here is the bow jumping to target. I often see that advice given, especially on the internet now, pointing the bow shoulder to target. And for a bow hunter, this is not really desirable because it gives you no string clearance. Daryl's in a closed stance, and we can look, if we look at string path here, we've got very little clearance. Now, this may work in summertime with a t-shirt on, or if you're a pure target shooter with a chest protector. But for bow hunting, he needs to move into a slightly open stance, and you can see here the difference in clearance we have for the string path. Now Daryl's in a closed stance. He's pointing his shoulder at target. Hold your arms out, Daryl. All right, bring them up to bow hand position. Come to anchor position. You feel the tension in the deltoids up here?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. Come back down, drop your hands and come back to open position, slightly open. Bring your hands up, come out, this is pointing to the target again, come to anchor. Now you feel how the muscles are not involved, very minimal muscle support. All we want to use is back tension. These muscles we use minimum, just enough to hold the bow out. What I strive to do in all shooting is use bone-to-bone support and use minimal muscle. Muscle trembles, it gets tired, it changes, but we're using bone support at all times, and bone-to-bone support doesn't change from shot to shot. So Daryl's in now a slightly open stance, he's erect, he wants to, the target, your eye needs to come down, center of the body, center of the belly button is the way I always check it. His eye, center of the body. He's well balanced, he's stable, wind, a lot of things don't affect him. And relax is very important, because if we start out standing tall like a statue, we get tired and then our shot changes. I see guys all the time with a little squat, they lean forward, they've got no balance, they lose 2 inches of draw, they totally off balance, a finger pushes them completely out, they've got no stability in their stance. Guys ask me all the time what's the best bow hand position for their use, and I generally tell them that the best bow hand position is the one they find for themselves that works best for them on the blind bail. There's been too many championships won with high wrist, medium wrist, and low wrist grips. To single out one as being the best for everyone, the blind bail will teach you what your best bow hand position will be. The bow will show you. When it jumps straight to the target with no right, left, the bow's telling you it likes to be shot with that grip position. Personally, I like a low wrist grip. It just works better for my style of shooting. This Three Rivers dollar grip I've modified somewhat with a flat spot where I've got a line, an edge I can feel every time. I can set my hand in, I can set that line in my lifeline and repeat it every shot no matter the conditions. I prefer my fingers very, very loose. Tense fingers stranded out is a bow grab waiting to happen. I see a lot of guys doing that, and you get to watch them closely, especially on video in the slow motion. They're grabbing the bow every shot. What you want is the fingers totally, and all the hand muscles, wrist muscles, everything is relaxed as possible. The fingers, you've got the bow where it can't drop. Just let them droop in a relaxed position. To instill confidence that you're not going to drop the bow at the shot with a very loose grip, I use a little homemade combination wrist finger sling. These things are very simple to make. About 28 inches of parachute cord or any kind of cord available most anywhere. A cord lock, you can steal one off of your wife's fleece jacket. 2 pieces of plastic tubing cut for keepers. Simply slides around the wrist, adjust this keeper. Put it around the bow, the thumb, put the other keeper around. Gives you enough to let the bow jump, but no danger of it hitting the ground or jumping out of your hand. Don't be afraid to experiment with your bow grip. You can try a little deeper, a little more outside, tension high, tension low. Play with it. Find the place the bow shoots best. The bow reaction will tell you where the bow wants to be shot. You can play with your fingers loose around the grip this way. Some people grip the bow, you put the fingers over here to get them out of the way. Tuck in 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, or like I do, you know, tuck all 3 and just loosely wrap this one around. Another thing that I like to do works is I always point my thumb at the target. It just orients me to center of target. And then after you find your bow grip, groove it in several hundred shots on the blank bail until it's grooved to the subconscious, and the subconscious will repeat it without thought every time you pick up the bow. I see guys getting advice all the time of never letting the bow hand move. And actually the bow hand not moving is a function of alignment in the rest of the shot process. What the bow does after the point that it jumps straight out and we reach conclusion makes no difference to shot. The arrow is clear of the bow, has no effect. I've seen Howard Hill quoted a lot of times as both hands do nothing. And I think Howard was right. Both hands do nothing. They do nothing extra to hold the bow in any position. Working out your best bow hand position on the blind bail and then grooving it will allow you, under pressure, to use that exact same bow hand position, whether it's a buck of a lifetime or a world championship shot involved. Okay, now that we've established our basic stance, we've worked out the bow hand on the blind bail to find our best position. It's time to find our best position for the fingers. Don't be afraid to experiment with different positions. This is the position a high percentage of shooters use, first joint. There's several good shooters that shoot deeper. Some shoot a little outside, even deeper. Some rest the third finger and draw primarily on the first two. Some get equal tension with all three. The important thing is for the wrist to be unbroken, straight, relaxed, using no more muscle than absolutely necessary just to hold a hook. A lot of guys shoot a glove and do excellent work with a glove. I prefer a tab. The reason why I quit shooting a glove is I was always either breaking in a glove or I was shooting a wore out glove. Their time frame when they're perfectly broken in is very, very short till they're beginning to wear out. I shot Cavalier Elite tabs for a long time, and they're great tabs, but recently I've been shooting a Soma. The Soma has a hook which, if you cup the string hand in at all, it digs in and tells you without a doubt you're cupping a string hand. It also has a pinky hook which allows you to take some of the pressure off the third finger and get a little cleaner release. Experiment on the blank bail and let the bow show you again what it likes best. And again, the reaction we're looking for is the bow jump to straight to target. The draw is three parts: excessive pulling to anchor, balance pulling at anchor, and increased pulling to conclusion. Excessive pulling to anchor, balance pulling at anchor, and increased pulling to conclusion. Now we're going to talk about anchors. We need at least two. The anchor on the face can be anything as long as it's a hard tissue anchor. If you're going to anchor on a tooth, make sure it's on an upper tooth because the upper jaw doesn't move. The lower moves up and down. People normally don't think of it in these terms, but your bow in relation to target is a second anchor. Along with your side of the face anchor, the bow, after you get full draw, it is anchored in the position. Now, however we aim, instinctive guys are locking the bow hand somewhere. Me being a gap shooter, I've got the point in a certain relationship to the target. After you get the bow in position and you get to full draw and anchor and it's too low, try to move it up. You know, it doesn't move, it's non-movable. It's an anchor. A lot of guys also, for another anchor, use the feather on the tip of their nose. I like to use a V, and behind my jaw is a third anchor. I have this V formed by my fingers. I drop it in behind the cheek. It lets me know that I've got this anchor solid, the corner of the mouth solid, my bow position solid. That's my three anchors. I'm ready to continue on with the shot. Anchors is another thing that you find for yourself, what works best for you on the blind bail. What we're looking for in anchors is not get variation between high and low shots. Our anchor with our bow hand and all the things we've worked out so far gives you no variation high or low. Right and left is all alignment and different aspects of the form, but our anchors, all we need is for it to be repeatable and exact, precise every time. The one that you can repeat under pressure in any situation is your best anchor. Okay, now we're to the expansion phase of our shot. For me, it's one of the most important and it's what I put a lot of emphasis on, and it makes or breaks any archery shot. Expansion is simply a rearward motion. Guys, a lot of them want to try to pull the bow a little bit further like they do in drawing phase. That's not expansion. Expansion is very simple. It's simply moving the elbow to the left for a right-handed shooter. Using these back muscles, no shoulder muscles, keep them very little tension. Use the back muscles to expand the draw. Because a lot of guys really don't know what back section feels like. A good way to check is take an arrow, slide your fingers close together, raise it higher in your nose, and then try to pull it in two. When you're trying to pull an arrow apart, you feel these muscles, Daryl?
Oh yeah.
These are the rheumatoids, these are the muscles we use. This is back tension. That's what we're looking for, is back tension, and these muscles, right and left. Expansion's called a lot of different things. I think Lynn calls it motors. I've heard it called lighting a fuse. I like to think of it as like a hydraulic pump. I'm here at anchor. I've got all the other parts of my shot arranged. I'm ready to start building back tension, much like a hydraulic pump, building pressure until it automatically explodes and I go to conclusion. Conclusion is very simple. It's exactly what it says. It's the conclusion of a shot. We put all the other parts of the shot together. All we have to do is have a conclusion to tell us that we can stop that shot. It's over with. Until that point, we maintain all the aspects of the shot as arranged until we hit its conclusion. Conclusion can be anything. I personally like to use my fingers touching my shoulder. It's a signal for my subconscious to I can stop. The shot's over with. A lot of guys, especially bow hunters, use the side of the arrow hitting the target as their conclusion. Some guys use hearing the arrow hit the target as their conclusion. The conclusion, what you use as your conclusion, really makes no difference as long as it takes longer to do than it takes the arrow to clear the bow. You notice I nowhere in all the shot parts mention release, and I know of no coaches that speak of a release. The word release is an action. In an archery shot, the release is not an action. It's a result of properly putting a shot together. We come into anchor, we expand in, and our goal is to hit conclusion. When we go to conclusion, the release happens automatically with no fault between the expansion phase and the conclusion phase. Now it's time to introduce a bridge program to our shot sequence. We've got all our parts put together. The subconscious can run it because we've grooved them by repetition on the blank bell. The bridge is where we introduce a target to our shot sequence. What method you use to aim is not important. What is important is you be 100% focused on aiming at your shot. When we start our expansion, our subconscious is going to run the expansion for us. This is the time we aim. My thoughts is when I'm actually trying to hit something is bring my entire universe all the way down to one little spot and then try to pick out a molecule on that spot. We draw the bow, excessive pulling to anchor, balance pulling at anchor, increase pulling for the expansion phase. Now we're aiming, nothing but aiming until the bow goes off. And the most important thing is the moment the arrow clears the bow, the main thing we need to do is be aiming. Aiming. The last conscious thought needs to be aiming. Shooting is like two guys shooting. It's two guys. You've got the guy in the front, which is a conscious mind. He's aiming. The guy in the back is a subconscious mind, and all his job is to run the shot. He can do it. Where we run into problems, target panic, flinching, all kinds of shooting misfortunes happens when the guy in the front starts checking on the guy in the back to see if he's doing his job. The guy in the front doesn't trust the guy in the back and he checks on him, he loses focus on target, and it goes all to hell. You're trying to do two things at one time. It doesn't work. And the whole concept of the bridge program is introduce confidence to all the parts of the shot that we put together on the blank bail. Our bridge program, we started a big target, relatively close to the target. 5 yards is a good place to start. We shoot, for instance, 60 arrows with perfect execution for each arrow. Once we can shoot 60 shots, we can shoot them perfect. We're time to back up. We can go back to 7.5, perfect execution of there, 10 yards, 12.5, 15, 17.5, and 20. The object of it is when we get to 20 yards, we've introduced a target to our aiming. We're still executing perfect shots. We can still execute the same shot at 5 yards as we do 20. Guys, you're there. It's time to put it to work. If at any time during our bridge program we have one shot that's not a perfect shot, not the shot we learned to do on the blank bail, and as a result of the aiming, we stop what we're doing, go back to the blank bail for the rest of our practice session until we have that part down perfect again. What I'm doing here is checking my alignment on the shot. And a mirror such as the one we have mounted here and a blind bail target works great for coming to full draw, checking your alignment, checking and seeing what you actually look like at full draw from an upper view. When I have perfect alignment, my elbow will disappear behind the bow limb when the bow shot vertical. It's a quick, easy check from what is actually going on in the shot. There we're going to introduce you to the Foremaster. Foremaster is a great tool for learning two things. One is to not relax at release, to pull through the shot hard. Number two, we can short string it and learn to draw the bow with the back muscles. When you put in the Foremaster on, very simple, loops on. The only thing you have to watch for is never get it above the knot because it gets off balance and the limb tip hits you in the head. Get it on, slide your hand through, bring it up to the elbow, split, cradle the elbow, centered, fingers on the string. Oh, it whooped you. I thought you were pulling through, Darryl.
I thought it was too.
Same thing. Let's go ahead.
Same thing.
Go.
I'm getting gun shy.
Oh, it didn't hurt though, did it?
Okay.
No, it whooped you less that time, didn't it? It doesn't take but about once. The Foremaster is a great training aid, and as you can see, all it does is attaches the bowstring to your elbow, takes your forearm and everything, the rest of the hand out of the equation. And the object of the Foremaster is to train yourself not to relax at release. You can have back tension, plenty of back tension, but if you relax at the moment of release, it's a ruined shot any way you go about it. Foremaster shouldn't be used on bows above 60 pounds, and you want to adjust it, the little string, to where you've got about 1 inch of slack at full draw. All this exercise is, we've adjusted to short string where you can't get tension from the fingers. It's shorter than your fingers. Now we're going to learn, instead of using recruiting shoulder, arm, forearm muscle to draw the bow, we draw the bow with our back to the beginning. Oh. You've been using them shoulders a little bit, haven't you, Darryl?
I kind of like that. Shoulders. This is a little tougher.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The only tension you need in the draw arm side, very little in the shoulder, exactly none in the forearm, and just enough tension to make the fingers hold a hook. Bow should be drawn from beginning force and using those back muscles. Back muscles, back muscles, back muscles. Now that we've rigged the Four-Master up short, I can't get enough purchase on the string with the fingers to draw the bow. That takes everything, my wrist, all the forearm muscles out of it. I'm having to draw the bow completely with my back. A low and relaxed bow shoulder is very desirable. It allows bone-to-bone support, reduces the amount of muscle involvement, and reduces injury in a lot of shooters versus a high, tense shoulder. Howard Hill used his swing draw to establish a low, relaxed bow shoulder. The current Olympic coach and all Olympic thinking uses method in the draw to establish a low and relaxed shoulder. The only problem with maintaining a low and relaxed shoulder is sometimes you get locked below target, and you might as well let down if you get low, because the only thing you can do is induce muscle to force the bow up. My method of guaranteeing a low and relaxed bow shoulder, and also having the bow in proper position where I never get locked down below and have to fight the bow trying to get it back up to elevation. What I do is lean forward, set the bow hand, get a little string tension, then bring up to my proper elevation, and as I draw, lean back, straight, fire. In the Masters of Barebow Volume 1 and 2, we covered all the primary aiming techniques. One that was omitted, and it's one of the oldest, is point of aim. Point of aim is actually drawing back an arrow, focusing on the arrow, where your focus is actually on the point, on a spot below the target. You know, some of the old timers in the field tournaments, they'd use a bright colored ball, and they'd know a distance in front of their target to place their ball. And therefore they'd draw the bow, put the point on that ball, and let the arrow land in the target. And one dirty trick of that age is when you went down to pull arrows, if you was standing beside a close competitor, move his ball if he wasn't watching. The biggest difference between point and aim and gap shooting is point of aim, your focus is on 100% on the arrow point. Gap shooting, your focus is on 100% on intended target, with the arrow point being in the secondary vision. Although I'm primarily a gap shooter, when I'm shooting targets that's past my point on distance, I convert to point of aim type shooting. As I pick up a spot somewhere above the target that I know coincides with my arrow trajectory to drop my middle, and I actually place the point on it, focus on it, and execute a shot.
You know, back in Masters of the Barebow Volume 1, I stated that I shoot instinctively and I don't consciously line up anything in my shot, and I don't see the arrow in my peripheral vision. I said I could shoot in the dark, and Rod started making fun of me. So to test that theory, I went into the basement at night, turned off the lights, covered the windows. I literally could not see my hand in front of my face, and I tried to shoot at a laser pointer. Well, at about 15 yards, my 4-inch group went to about 14 inches. For the first time in my life, I found myself consciously looking for something to line up. I'd never felt that before. So I got to eat crow on that shooting in the dark business. I can't shoot in the dark. I need enough light for my subconscious mind to line up that shot. Rod's right. I can't shoot in the dark.
Light, yes. Dark.
Yeah, low light, yes. Darkness, no.
Good shot. Here we have Emily Termat from Wisconsin. Emily's 18 and an excellent archer already. She came down and spent a week with me spring break, and just a great student. She's absorbs everything you tell her. She's strong, aggressive, really loves the sport. Emily's a daughter of Kevin and Sue Termat, which own and run River's Edge Recurves in Merrill, Wisconsin. Here's Emily in a slightly open stance, feet shoulder width apart. She's very upright, erect, but relaxed. You notice Emily's got her hand in her exact position. She takes time to get it laid down. Exactly where she worked out on the blind bales through several thousand shots at her best bow hand position is. She puts her fingers on the string, takes time to exact same, dressing the string the exact same way she's done thousands of times. She draws to anchor, never stop pulling. She's expanding the draw by pushing elbow this way until the shot explosion occurs. Okay, Emily, move your elbow this way, straight out, straight, expand, conclusion. Perfect. Good job. She sets her bow hand, draws to anchor, never stopping, expanding until she drives to conclusion. Just like clockwork, every shot. Pull hard. There. Doing great, baby.
Okay.
Doing great. Yeah. Today I'm shooting a 21-inch Three Rivers dollar. With medium limbs, it makes a 64-inch bow. It's a very versatile bow. It can change limbs or whatever limbs you're choosing in the right arrow combo. It works good for heavy game, light game, medium game, and also with a simple arrow change, it makes a very handy field bow. When I began bow hunting as a teenager back in the early 70s, deer weren't as plentiful as in recent years, and shot opportunities were rare. After a few clean misses, I set out to learn to shoot my bow accurately. I am a bow hunter, and being primarily a bow hunter, any and everything I do translates to being a more efficient bow hunter. My aiming method, form, and techniques, along with bow setup, are centered around bow hunting, which also have proven to be the most effective for 3D for my style shooting. Having both a target and bow hunting background has allowed me to adapt some of the proven techniques of the target world, which allow me to close the deal with certainty when the shot presents itself.
For many of us, the shot is a wondrous mystery, a black box of sorts where we don't quite understand what we're doing. What I'd like to do is open up that box, take a look at the shot, break it down into 7 elements, and work on each element. By breaking down our shot into 7 different elements, it gives us tools so we can better understand our shot and analyze it and work on it. And what we're hoping to do is to take those 7 parts and then put them back together and demystify the whole shot, so to speak, where we're building a confident shot, a shot that we understand, a shot that we can work on, and ultimately a shot that can perform when we need it to. The first element of the shot is the stance. And many of us overlook the stance, but the stance is actually very important to creating a stable platform for the shot and ultimately a stable shot. What you're looking for is your weight evenly distributed between your feet, about shoulder width apart, and weight slightly forward on the balls of your feet. There's two basic stances, and the first one is a closed stance, which means that your feet are lined up. So if you were to lay an arrow across the balls of your feet, it would be pointing at the target. And another popular stance is the open stance. And from a closed stance, if you were to take a step back with your left foot, then your stance now becomes slightly opened. There should be a slight flex in your knees, so you're not absolutely locked out and straight-legged, but just a slight bend in your knees. But a lot of times in field shooting and in hunting situations, the terrain is uneven and you're not able to have an ideal stance. So what you need to do is modify your stance either by opening up your stance or widening your stance to create that stable platform. The second element to your shot is setting your hands into the bow and into the bow string. This is a critical part of the shot because how you set your hand into the bow and how you take hold of the string are the 2 points of contact that you have between you and the bow. In archery, there's the high wrist, the medium wrist, and there's the low wrist. It's been debated that the high wrist is the most accurate way to grip a bow because it's the least amount of contact that you have with the bow and you're less likely to torque the bow. But the problem with the high wrist is that it requires a lot of strength, and if your hand is at all fatigued and your wrist starts to break, then you've all of a sudden changed your grip and you get a different shot. What I'd like to recommend to you is to use either a medium or a low wrist grip, which means that you're allowing your hand to settle into the bow grip and be in a more relaxed stage where it's as if your hand was slippery or wet and settled into the deepest part of the grip. They've done some studies on elite archers at the Olympic Training Center, and they've actually found that they get better bone-on-bone alignment when their hand is more at a 45-degree angle to their bow. The 45-degree angle I'm talking about is in relationship to my vertical bow, but it can also be attained by canting your whole bow this way. Ultimately, what that 45-degree angle is in relationship to your shoulder and allowing your shoulder to be in the optimal position for the shot. And that may be why a lot of the legends in archery, Howard Hill, Fred Bear, have gone to that 45-degree angle because they're getting a more solid bone-on-bone shot. There's a couple ways that you can take hold of the string. The one that I recommend is the deep V, and that's when you set the bowstring at or behind the first crease or the first knuckle on your fingers. The other technique is shooting more off the fingertips, and the reason I don't like that for me is because I tend to build up calluses on my fingers when I'm shooting too far out on the tips. But as I take a deeper grip on the bowstring, I get less callus buildup and less sore fingers. It also gives your hand an opportunity to be more relaxed at full draw. So with a deep V, it allows you to hold the bowstring with less effort and less muscle tension in your hand and arms. And what you're looking for is a clean release. So do try setting the fingers at different points around the crease, whether it be behind the crease, at the crease, or even slightly short of the crease, and see what gives you the cleanest release. One of the critical aspects about drawing your bow back is that you use your shoulder and your back muscles more so than your arm. And we want as little tension or muscle activity in our arm. The only tension that you should have in your arm is the tension that's needed to hold onto the string. But all the work that you're doing when you're drawing back a bow is in your back and your shoulder. One aspect that we don't always pay attention to is our breath. And I recommend that you find a steady routine in your breathing. What I do is as I raise my bow, I take a breath in, and then as I draw my bow back, I let that breath out. So at full draw, I'm at a quarter breath because I release about 3/4 of my breath. And if you do that each time, then your breathing is consistent through each shot. You're looking for a good solid anchor at full draw. I like to use the anchor point above my eye tooth. There's a small bump right above your eye tooth, and with my finger, as I come to full draw, I'll pull my finger into that prominent point above my eye tooth. And that's one of the reasons I like using a tab, is because I can feel my finger right up against that bony landmark. There's other folks that like to anchor with their thumb to the back of their neck, or use their jawbone as an anchor point. There are some people that use the corner of their mouth, but that opens yourself up to a lot of variation as far as whether you're forward or back or in or out. When you're dealing with a soft tissue anchor, it's not quite as solid as using a bony one. I find that aiming is somewhat overrated in archery circles, and that we spend a little too much time evaluating and talking about aiming, when essentially aiming is just seeing the target and seeing the sight picture. Most of the coaching sessions that I've gone through when I've worked with Olympic coaches and FIDA style coaches, we don't even talk about aiming. They're just looking at my form, and we're trying to refine that. And when I talk about aiming, I'm not necessarily talking about a particular sighting system, instinctive, gapping, pick a point, or even using a sight. When I'm talking about aiming is seeing the target, whether you're focusing on the target or focusing on a gap or focusing on an object. What I want you to do is just notice that you're on target, make sure that everything feels aligned. You've already started aiming. Maybe when you're setting your stance, you're focusing on the target, or at pre-draw, you're already aiming the bow. But this is at a point where you've drawn the bow back, you've hit your anchor, and now you're seeing your target. Once everything feels right with your aiming, your sight picture looks good, your bow looks good, everything feels right, now we're looking at executing the shot. And when we're thinking about release and follow through, I don't like to think of them as two different steps. I actually like to think of them as one step, or combining the release with the follow through. And from anchor, I'm really thinking about following through, and then the release just happens. Really what's holding the string are the muscles in the forearm. So at full draw, when you're holding the string back, you've got a deep V, and once you release the muscle tension in the forearm, then the string just goes. It just slips off your fingers. So there's no conscious effort in actually opening up your fingers, but it's more, if there's any conscious effort, it's in relaxing your forearm even more. So then naturally the fingers just open up and the string's released. I think the pitfall there is that oftentimes archers will try to open up their hand or open up their fingers and let that string go. If you need a mechanism to get you to release your string, then you want to start thinking about relaxing the forearm. But if you can get the shot to go off with just thinking follow through, to go from here to here, that's actually a better way, because the less you think about your release, probably the smoother it's going to be, and the more it's going to be a surprise where you're not anticipating it. There's a couple different ways that you can follow through upon releasing the string. One of the ways is a dead release. And what a dead release means is that when you let go of the string, your hand doesn't move off of your face. So you're at anchor, and then you let go of the string, and your hand stays put where it is. The other type of follow through is more of a dynamic follow through, which means that when you draw back the string and release, you get movement in your hand, whether it be a few inches to your ear or even more to the back of your shoulder. And that's a dynamic follow through. I'm definitely an advocate of the dynamic follow through, because what that is telling me is that you don't have a lot of tension built up in your string hand that's resisting the action of letting go of the string. An interesting drill that you might try to demonstrate a dynamic follow through is to borrow a mechanical release and actually draw the bow back with the release and hold it at full draw, and then have a buddy come by and stand by the trigger and, without telling you, trigger that release. So then the release of the bow is a complete surprise, and see what your arm does. If you're drawing back and you're surprised, typically your reaction is a pretty dynamic follow through. I've seen plenty of guys shoot well with a static release or a dead release, and I've seen plenty of people shoot well with a dynamic release. So, do what works for you. What I am trying to have you build is a simple and efficient shot. So we've opened up the black box and we've taken a look at our shot, and we've broken it down into 7 elements to demystify the shot. But now let's do something with that. What I'd like to do is go over 3 basic steps to making your shot better, putting it together, making it flow, developing a confident, efficient shot. So the first step we're going to take is grooving the shot. And what we're going to use is a close bail here. You want a bail that's at least chest height, and we're going to start with a blank bail. This is your testing grounds, or your little workshop where you're going to work on the different elements of your shot and work at perfecting your shot. We're going to work on 3 different exercises here. First off, we're going to shoot blank bail, which means that there's no target on the bail, and we're just working on shooting shots that feel right. We're not judging the shots on where they hit, because obviously there's no target there, so we're not seeing or judging that shot by how close it is to the bullseye, but we're really judging the shot on how it feels. I'm feeling the draw, anchor, and follow through. Then we'll also work on shooting blind bail, which means shooting with your eyes closed. That can be a little scary at first. Actually, the first times I shot blind bail, I peeked a couple times just to make sure that I wasn't shooting towards the neighbor's yard or something like that, but just making sure you can open your eyes for a second just to make sure that you're aiming at the bail. But for the most part, shoot that whole shot with your eyes closed. Even the elite archers will say that the shot feels different. In fact, it feels better when their eyes are closed. The reason why people shoot a better shot with their eyes closed is because they have less distractions and their mind is interfering less with the shot. And then thirdly, we're going to do a blank bail shot where we're picking a spot on that blank bail, whether it's a small piece of hay or a little blem in the target, and focusing on that spot on the target. Not necessarily trying to hit that target, but just focusing on it. And what that's doing is it's giving you a sense of how the shot feels, but then occupying the mind and the eyes with some type of focal point. What you're doing is you're allowing some visual stimulus to focus on, but you're not introducing the pressure of trying to hit a target. Shooting close bail really gives you the opportunity to feel your shot, and it eliminates all those other variables, whether it's hitting the target, how windy it is, whether your buddy's watching you. Shooting close bail gives you a chance to understand the shot, work on it, tinker with it, and ultimately groove it. So it is just so ingrained into your shooting that you're reinforcing that perfect, fluid, confident, powerful shot. When I was first starting out in archery, I had the good fortune of getting put on a target with Jay Bars, who's an Olympic gold medalist in archery. And one of the things that he shared with me that day was that before he shoots a tournament, he works on close bail. And so he warms up on a close bail where he's just shooting good shots. So whether you're getting ready for a tournament or heading out to your tree stand, I think shooting at a close bail and just grooving your shot pay dividends as far as your performance that day. So close bail is not just for developing your shot or when you're first getting started, but even further on down the road, if you start having problems, your shot starts breaking down or something's not quite feeling right, get back to the close bail and work on those drills. Do blank bail and blind bail and pick a spot on a blind bail and work on grooving that shot or getting that shot back. With our close bail work, we can really take a close look at each element and work on it and refine it. But the other thing that we can do with close bail work is to take all 7 elements and join them all together and have them flow into a good working shot. It reminds me of the other night when my son was practicing his violin and he was playing each note of the song as best as he could, but it sounded really disjointed, and at the end of it he said, you know, that Mozart guy just did not know how to write music. But what he was moving towards was taking all those notes and blending them into a song or into music. And that's what we need to do with our 7 steps. Not think of them as 7 separate steps, but thinking of them as 7 points within a song or 7 notes that just flow along and everyone almost blends into the next one. And what you end up with is a shot at the end. Now we're going to work on strengthening the shot. There's a drill that we can do that can build your physical strength in shooting the shot and also build your mental strength in the shot as well. It's actually an exercise that I call the sustained draw. What you want to do is draw back the bow like you normally do, but when you hit anchor, you sustain your draw and you hold your draw for 10 seconds. You should continue drawing your bow. You should continue using your back tension. After 10 seconds, let the bow back down, recover, then draw back again, holding for a sustained draw for 10 seconds. Use that as an exercise not only to build strength in the shot, but then also that's deprogramming you from rushing or shooting sooner than you think. It's teaching you that you can hold at full draw. After 10 seconds, let back down and recover. And then the third time, draw back the bow, do the sustained draw for 10 seconds, and then shoot the shot. If your bow is too heavy, you may want to just do 1 repetition. And then the other option is to get a lighter bow if it's available, and then work up to your hunting bow. What the sustained draw exercise will give you is strength, control, and confidence. There's a lot of guys that don't think that they can hold. Once they hit anchor, the arrow's gone. And this drill is even more so geared towards them, because this exercise will train you and teach you that you can indeed hold. It's an empowering thing to feel like you're in total control of your shot. Let's work on enhancing your shot now. And the key to great archery is back tension. If you can discover proper back tension, it's going to literally transform your shot. We're going to work on some drills that hopefully can move you towards developing good back tension through your shot. The first element that I'm going to talk about is called the double anchor. We've already talked about our anchor, or the anchor point on our face, but I wanted to discuss more with you about developing another anchor in your back. What I'm talking about is, as you come to full draw and as you're continually pulling that bow back, your back muscles are going to get to a point where you're not feeling a whole lot more movement, and your scapula or your shoulder blade is going to get to a point where you feel it shift and then it locks into a certain position. And that's the anchor that you're looking for. The way we're going to implement the double anchor is by adding it into our already existing 7-element shot sequence. We already have the first anchor, which is anchoring on our face. Then we have the aiming element. And then after aiming element, we're going to put in the back anchor. By adding in another anchor point, the second anchor point, what we're doing is we're shifting the emphasis or focus on the back anchor. And by doing that, we're eliminating all of those early releases or pre-releases or not quite at anchor releases. Because if you follow your elements, you've already reached your anchor point against your face. You've already aimed your bow. So now you're just developing your back tension. And whether you release early or later with your second anchor, you're still going to have a solid face anchor, and you're still going to have a good sight picture, and ultimately a more forgiving shot. For me, that second anchor feels like coming to full draw and driving my shoulder and back muscles back to a point where it actually stops moving, and I can actually feel my shoulder blade move out and stop. We're going to have Daryl just act like he's drawing the bow back and anchoring on his face. And what you want to do is have a buddy just place his hand up against your elbow, and not on the point here, but just towards that back section. And then you can just push back into his hand and draw back. And so when he's pushing on my hand, he's using his back and shoulder muscles to drive my hand back. And that's where the back tension sensation is going to come from, is by using your shoulder, using your back and shoulder blade to drive it back. And the other interesting thing is he's not pulling straight back towards me this way and elongating his draw, but what he's doing is pushing back and around, so his elbow is almost coming back and around towards me this way. And that's the way that your shoulder and back should be moving and using that back tension. What we're trying to establish here is a anchor that goes beyond just touching your face, but more of a back tension anchor. One of the things that I think can really enhance your shot is working on developing flash images. And it's an interesting concept. It's almost like you were to take a flashcard of one of your 7 elements and hold it up, and that would move you to that step. And then you'd flash another one up, and that would move you even further through your shot. And then finally you'd flash another one up, and your shot would be gone, and it would be just the shot you wanted. It's developing certain images within your shot that move you progressively through your shot to its completion. And it's different for different people. Everyone has their own set. It's something that you're going to have to develop on your own. But what works out for me is I flash up C. So that's the aiming element or the seeing element of my sight picture. Then I flash up back tension anchor or back anchor. And then finally, my third flash image is follow through. And if I just do C, anchor, and follow through, it moves me through my shot and I end up with a powerful, confident, efficient shot. C, anchor, follow through. Flash images are good to keep you in the shot during the shot. They keep your mind focused on the shot. One of the common errors I've seen in shooting has been rushing the shot. A shot should be like eating a meal at the dinner table. You know, if your wife cooks you, your favorite dish, you don't want to just shove it in your mouth and swallow as fast as you can. You want to take a bite and chew on it and savor it and enjoy the meal. And same thing with a shot. You don't want to just grab hold of that string and pull it back and shoot it as fast as you can, but enjoy each element and savor each element, and at the end you have a good shot. My advice is to slow down your shot and take your time. And close bail is a great place to work on tempo and slowing your shot down. It's also good to evaluate your weaknesses or the things that you need to work on, but it's oftentimes hard to see your weaknesses. One thing that's really helpful to do is to videotape yourself. If you can get some video of yourself and then review it and evaluate it, oftentimes you can find your own shooting errors and then you've got a good opportunity to work on them. I think with the tools that we've talked about today, that you can take the different elements, take the basic exercises that we've gone over and work on a shot that feels good and that you're confident as far as executing it.
This is called facing your fears. In a hunting situation, every once in a while, you're going to get the opportunity to get a shot at an animal where you're going to have to shoot between some trees or maybe some branches. I want to show you one of my little tricks that I practice on the range. This is this pipe insulation you can buy at any hardware store, piece of rope across, and just put a string through them. They're movable, and line these things up and practice shooting between them. When you're in the woods and you're hunting out of a tree stand or out of a ground blind, every once in a while you get an opportunity to shoot through some trees, and you need to build up the confidence to be able to do that and pull that shot off. So by hanging these, just practice shooting between them. You're not going to hurt nothing if you accidentally hit one. It's going to bounce out of the way. Take this another step farther, get yourself a couple pieces, tape them up here or tie them with string horizontal, practice those shots, because this will happen in the woods. You're going to get an opportunity one day to take that deer you're after, and if there's a couple trees in the way blocking your view, practicing like this is going to give you the confidence to make that shot when you get that opportunity.
Target panic is all mental. Target panic is, they say, is either one of two things. It's either the fear of missing or the fear of hitting. And either one will just drive you nuts. A number of people have switched to left-handed. Right-handed archers switched to left-handed. Fred Bear talked about that to overcome target panic. He actually switched sides. There's different variations of target panic. My particular form most of the time is, there it is, shoot, let it go, come on. And by the time I go through that mental process, it's a wonder I can hit the backstop. But everybody has a different form of target panic, but the bottom line is you work through that, keep shooting. It will disappear on its own the more confidence you have in what you're going to do. But that's what target panic is a fear of success or a fear of failure. And it's all mental.
I've had target panic twice, and both times we brought on back success. My first time was after my first World Championship. The second time, after my one in 2004, they both were a year of pure terror. You know, when you get to the point that you can't do what you know how to do by a monster inside your subconscious. And it's hard to explain because on an indoor dot target, a bullseye target, I don't have target panic. But I love shooting 3Ds, and that's what I want to do well. So on 3D ranges where the target panic strikes you, it's an evil little booger that gets you what you like the most. I don't know that there's a cure. You know, there's a battle, but I don't know that there's a cure. You can control it, and I don't want to tell everybody that there's not a cure. I know how to battle it. I battle it today big time here. I've had better success controlling target panic by mentally deciding that I wasn't going to beat myself, that I would hold the air as long as I needed to, shoot my shots, take my lumps, and believe me, it's tough going to local tournaments and getting a beating when you're a world champion. But you keep working on your shot, and score doesn't matter. You work on your shot, accepting nothing less than perfect shots till the subconscious starts to accept it. That's the only thing you're going to take is perfect shots. And it eases off. You watch it all the time. Make sure you get in situations, big crowds, high-level competition. You're guarding, you're watching, you're catching every little move that looked like it could be an onset of target panic coming back, and you rely on doing the shot, the perfect shot, doing your job, every step of your job from the beginning of when you step on the stake until after the shot's over. You do every aspect of your job. When I first got target panic, I called up a coach I know and told him, I said, I've got target panic. And he said, congratulations. Every really good shooter I know has had target panic at one point in time. Now let's figure out how to cure it. Target panic's different forms lead many to believe there's several different causes for target panic. But in reality, all forms of target panic are rooted in a non-existent shot sequence or less than 100% faith in your shot sequence. There's been many so-called cures for target panic, but at best they've all been short-term patches. Patches that have no effect on the actual cause of target panic, which is trying to do two things at one time with a conscious mind. My cure for target panic is blind bell work to establish and ingrain a solid, repeatable shot sequence, and the bridge program to develop 100% trust in my new shot sequence.
I feel that because shooting an arrow is such a mental aspect, concentration itself, deep concentration when you're staring at something, you're actually, the human being is training your brain to do something instinctively or routinely or automatically, and it's almost normal to develop some sort of a problem. Be it target panic or whatever, because you're training your brain to do something a certain way, and unless you do it that way, it's going to mess up. The answer is to concentrate on what you're doing, be real consistent in the way you do it, the way you release, and get it down to the point where you do that every time, the same exact way. And if you do it, especially when you're shooting with your eyes closed, real close, 10 feet or whatever, or at any distance, but close your eyes, concentrate on your draw, your anchor, and your release, and you do that to the point where you train yourself that this is the way I do it every time, and then it's just a matter of concentrating on your spot, and the rest will take care of itself.
I just don't believe in target panic, personally. I know it's out there. I know it causes a lot of people great grief, including Fred Bear, but I personally will not let it get a hold of me. I am very regimented in my process of shooting a bow. If I do not get it all the way back to my eye, I am not releasing my arrow. And the way I practice and the amount I practice, which is limited, I believe I got a real good control on that, and it's just not going to hit me. That's my thoughts on target panic.
I don't know much about target panic. I've never really experienced it. Maybe because I've been relaxed enough when I'm shooting that I don't get uptight about whether I'm on my target or not. I think that that's one of the advantages of small game hunting. You're just having fun. If you bring that attitude to your archery, I think it just comes more natural.
Well, I wish I had something profound to say about target panic, but I really don't. I've never suffered from it. I think one thing that may have been an advantage for me is that I've never competed, and I rarely even hunt with other people. Mostly I hunt alone. And I think maybe the solitary approach to archery has been a benefit to me in that way.
Target panic is a subject I don't like to talk about. I've met too many guys over the years that have the problem with target panic, that have developed it because friends, neighbors, guys at the, they're hunting with, whatever, start telling them their problems, and the next thing they know, they're having the problem. I mean, I hate to say it's contagious, but because it's a mental type of thing, but I don't even want to, I know what it is, but I don't like talking about it because I don't have the problem, and consequently, I don't want to know about it.
When I see a magazine article about target panic, I don't read it. I think you can develop problems by studying them. I never paid any attention to target panic until one year I got it. I couldn't hit a deer. It was like I'd black out for a second, and when I came to, I'd missed another deer. I didn't even remember the shot. I realized that it was not a shooting problem, it is a mental problem. On the very next deer that came along, I cured my target panic. I took control of the mental part of the shot. I talked myself through that shot and made the shot. After that, no more target panic. And I still don't read magazine articles about target panic.
Target panic, target panic, target panic. There is target panic, and people run into that. Of course, shooting a bow too heavy makes the problem worse. Another version of target panic may be Pavlov's dog effect. It's a trigger mechanism. You get back here and touch, it just goes off. One way to break the habit is to sit in your living room and take an arrow and aim it at one of your wife's little porcelain statues. Don't intend to shoot it, but when it goes off and you hit it and break it, that may break that habit.
Target panic is something I'm sure you've all heard about. It comes to you when you least expect it, and it happens at the worst possible times. There's different kinds of target panic. There is hope for it. You can learn to shoot through it and master it, win over it, and get a good shot back. It might come back to haunt you again. It might not. Just keep on plugging away, and as long as you love the sport and you want to overcome the problem, you'll be able to do it.
I've heard a lot of guys talk about target panic. I can't even say it. Target panic. I've been really lucky. I don't think I've ever really experienced, although I get a little panicky every time I make a shot at an animal. Your heart's pumping, adrenaline's going. I mean, there's nothing like shooting under pressure. I try to practice in pressure situations. I like to have, friends with me when we're all shooting together and a little competition. It really helps you become a better shooter when the pressure's on.
Target panic is an important issue to some folks. I haven't personally had a problem with it. A friend of mine told me that the reason I don't have target panic is I don't think when I shoot. And perhaps when you don't think about what you're doing when you're shooting, you don't have a process. You just do it, you're less likely to have target panic.
I have never had it. I know it exists in very extreme forms in people. But I believe the reason that I don't get target panic is I consciously aim and unconsciously release. I have a little voice that says now, and I don't question it. I spend the time aligning, however much line it takes, aligning the point arrow where I want it, And that little voice in the subconscious mind will say now, and I just release. I don't try to get a better target picture. I just try to get the best one and let it happen. And I think that's why. I think as you're constantly trying to correct your aim point is when target panic occurs.
It's mainly caused by, I believe it's caused by fear of missing. And it's really a short in your brain. Your brain tells you that you're going to miss or you can't hit something, so you can't get to full draw or you can't anchor and hold and aim because of this fear of missing, so it locks you up. I've seen people struggle with this problem for years to overcome this, most of the time without success. There's only one thing that I've ever seen that can cure target panic just about every time, and that's a clicker. They've got them now that goes on the limb of your bow. We used to have the ones that went on the riser and the arrow went underneath the clicker. But it allows you to come to full draw because your brain knows that you're not going to release that arrow until the thing goes click. So you come to full draw and you anchor, then you push and pull, push and pull, push and pull, click, and you release. And it's really the best cure that I know of for target panic.
Missing is maybe shooting 4 inches to the left of the bullseye that you're aiming at. That's missing. When you have a game animal come in that you really want and you shoot 2 feet over its back at 12 yards, that's not missing, that's panicking. These shooting problems affect all archers, but is most prevalent in traditional archery due to the fact that you're continuously drawing the bow and continuously increasing the weight, therefore increasing the anxiety and the stress. And it causes that syndrome of hurry up and get rid of it. So that we call it the hurry up and miss problem. The clicker can be used as an aid to help an archer create a shooting platform that in many cases for the first time allows an archer to be able to draw his bow, anchor his bow, and aim and shoot with the confidence of knowing that he's on target. Clickers and draw checks are not a new invention. They've been around for many years with FIDA archers and Olympic-style archers. A way of measuring when you are at your proper draw length. It's been written that Art Young, for example, drew his hunting arrows back till the broadhead touched his finger. That's just another example of trying to create consistency in your shooting platform. Mounting the cricket is pretty versatile for any bow, whether it be a long bow or recurve. It's got double stick tape on it that pretty much sticks to any surface. And you can mount it high, you can mount it low on the bow. It's just your preference. It works either way. After mounting the cricket to the bow, you can adjust it with this chain here with a link in it, which you can fine tune it either way. I would suggest, running the string through your bowstring and pulling it out slack. And at that point, put it pretty much in the middle, and you'll draw the bow back roughly to your anchor, and it'll slip through and get you close to where you want. At that point, you can knot the string or serve it here onto your string, then take care of the fine adjustment with that. The whole purpose is to draw, anchor, aim, create back tension to let that clicker click and go off, and let us know when we're at full draw so that we can shoot. The clicker should be looked at as a tool for the archer to navigate into a better shooting platform. It's not magic beans. It doesn't eliminate target panic. But it's what it does do is it shows you how to shoot with proper form so that you can pick a path to improve your shooting abilities to your satisfaction.
I think being fear of missing is probably what causes most of it, which is that's what target panic is, and it's what buck fever is. It's a fear of missing. Wanting it so bad, you're afraid you're going to miss it. So you want to hurry up and get it over with. But I've been around some extreme cases of that beyond what you'd even believe. I know a fellow that shot his picture window out of his house. This was back in our target shooting days. Now, he was a sight shooter. And he got that panic where anytime, as soon as his pin got anywhere close to the target, he'd let go and he couldn't help himself. It didn't have to be in the middle. As long as it got somewhere close, he'd let go of the string. And he put a little bullseye target right on his living room picture window. And he said, I'm either going to shoot it or I'm not. You know, I'm going to control it or what. And so he was up there and zinged an arrow right through his picture window. He had it so out of control he couldn't even stop it. It's still in your brain. It's just a matter of convincing yourself. I never was one for the crutches thing. I never was one for clickers or anything like that. You know, if you got a mental problem, if you're having troubles, you work them out. The best way is just to drop back and start over again, and go through each step of good form and good shooting, and start all over again and learn to shoot a bow. Maybe drop down in weight and just begin over again and get that confidence level up.
Target panic certainly exists, but oftentimes we're too quick to diagnose a shooting problem as target panic. If you're feeling like you're having a shooting problem, like you can't come to anchor, or you shoot before before you feel like you're on target, or maybe you just freeze when you're on target, you can't let go of the string, it may well be target panic. I mean, those are 3 strong symptoms that people use to describe target panic. It may not be target panic after all. It could be mechanics. If you're not shooting with proper alignment, or if the bow is just overpowering you, those could be problems that could make you shoot with poor form, or with shooting problems that look like target panic. Your shooting problems may be coming from a form problem or from a mechanics problem versus a mental type error or a mental glitch in your shooting. We play that target panic card too frequently and too easily.
I've had target panic, I think, from the first time I ever picked up a bow. It goes through cycles. I'll find a little cure that'll work for a while and things will be okay, but then they'll coast back down. The best thing I've ever found for target panic is right now, learning from Rod and Larry and the other masters, by learning my own shot. Once I know all the pieces of my shot, the best thing, the best grip, the best stance, the best fingers on the string, all the way these things add up, gives me a lot of confidence. And when I have confidence like that, I can just feel target panic just slide away into the background.
Experienced bow hunter Rich Niblock has taken an impressive display of mature whitetail bucks.
I'm shooting with a clicker this year. I've shot with a clicker off and on through the years. It's helped me with target panic a little bit. I just feel like I can't get to the right spot and hold there or follow through with my shot. And with the clicker, I get back to my anchor point and I'm able to follow through. And I like that confidence of knowing I'm hitting exactly full draw every time. And I started shooting 3 fingers under this year. Took some instruction from Rod, and I like that a lot better. I just feel like I can put the tip of the arrow on the target and hit what I'm looking at real easily. And out of the tree stand, which I shoot out of a lot, it seems to be right on the money. You know, start of bow season, I feel pretty confident.
Longbowman Denny Sturgis Jr. has successfully bow hunted across 4 continents. A regular contributor to several national bow hunting publications, he is also co-owner of Traditional Vision Quest. Using the knowledge gained from the masters, Denny has taken his already proven shooting style to a deadly new level. And besides that, he's just a heck of a nice guy.
For the last 15 years, I've shot a Black Widow longbow. They're been a real dependable bow, and their takedown system is very nice. Looks like one piece. Pull it apart, and you have a 2-piece bow. It's handy for pack-in hunts, or especially on flying hunts when you have to put it in your luggage. For years, I used a bow quiver on my longbows, but I always preferred a naked bow. And when Rod came out with this Aeromaster quiver, it's been really handy, and it's my new favorite quiver. Being a cameraman for Masters of the Barebow showed me a lot more about archery than I even knew existed. And while I was pleased or happy, content with the way I was shooting, I thought I'd take out the way I shot, take it to the blank bale, and put it to the test. And I thought that I would find out that the way I grip the bow is the best way for me, the way I grip the string, anchor point, and so on. But what I found out was in every one of these steps, I found a better way, and the bow told me that it was better. So let's run through these steps, and I'll show you what I came up with. First thing up is stance. I'd always had a semi-open stance, about like this on a 45. What I found out from the blank bale was I'm better with a closed stance. Number one, it's easier for me to get in line, and I get a lot better string clearance on my chest. Here's a 45-degree open stance. If I pull the bow, I can feel the string contacting my chest, and this is a t-shirt, so you know it's not going to be good when it's late season. I got a lot of clothes on. By closing my stance, the string comes around over here, and it's not going to hook up on any clothes. So I close my stance, I've got to have better alignment, and I have better string clearance. Part of the reason I have clearance issues too is the longer your bow, the more likely you are to get some string contact. This is a 66-inch bow. If it was a shorter bow, the string angle would be more severe and it would give you more clearance. Step two is how you hold your bow. I've always held my bow real tight, kind of like Daryl, choke it like a snake. And it worked fairly well. On the blank bale, I tried different combinations: tight, curl one finger, curl two fingers, curl three fingers, hold it with the bottom two fingers, just a bunch of different ways. And what I found was the best way for me was to curl three fingers, these bottom three fingers, hold the bow just with a little pressure with the pointer finger, thumb points straight at the target. And why it was the best was that was the one that most consistently, when I stopped holding, the bow would jump straight toward the target, my hand came straight back. Another thing, I used to be a fan of a leather grip or a rubber grip on my bow handles, and I think this let me torque the bow and I wasn't even aware of it. Both Rod and Larry and several of the other masters said that a bow should slide into the same place. You should be able to shoot your bow even if it was slippery or greasy. And again, on the blank bale, I removed my leather handle, tried it, and I prefer the smooth bow now. It's easier to get the same consistent positioning. So this handle's sitting on the same piece of skin that's in line with the bones, and when I'm at full draw, it's easier to hold it and control it and be more consistent. A key element to any good shot is having a solid bow arm. For years I got away with murder because I had a decent bow arm. I shot a buffalo a couple of years ago in Australia. It was a perfect example. You can see my hand fly out and the arrow goes a little bit right, but not as bad as it would have if I'd had a weak bow arm and just shanked the whole thing away. So part of building a good forgiving shot is having a real good solid bow arm. I've shot split finger since I was 3 years old. I'd never tried 3-under. After talking to Rod, he suggested try it out for a week, see what you think. You know, for hunting ranges, you might like it. So I did. I had to raise my knocking point 1/8 of an inch or so to shoot through paper and have a good tear. But after trying it for a week, I actually now prefer it. I probably will never go back to split finger. The reason I did switch to 3-under is because the closer the arrow nock is to your eye, the closer your point on range is. With split finger and the same anchor, my point on was about 40 yards, and I had to hold under up at my normal hunting ranges. With 3-under, my point on is about 20 yards, and it's still on the animal from 0 to 35 yards. So that's what the main reason I switched to 3-under, is because it gets the tip of the arrow on the target at my most common hunting ranges. I use a Black Widow tab now. This is a 3-under model since I switched to 3-under. I'm now like this. I'm in the groove on the top.
I'm out of the groove on the bottom. I'm past the groove on the middle. A little bit of an angle. But again, I tried different ones. This one consistently came off the string better, easier. The bow reacted by jumping at the target, not the left and right. Drawing the bow. I've always been a pre-aimer. I like to get that bow right up and have it aimed, and also a minimum of movement. To draw it, it's just a push-pull, and you know, you're not getting a lot of sideways movement for game animals to pick up. The problem with this was I would do it and pull straight in when I did it, and what it did, I think part of my pre-ignition problems was having that drawing it here, and it's a little harder to draw on the blank bail. And with Rod and Larry's help both, I now draw, instead of straight back like this, I draw more out. I transfer the load to my back earlier, and I don't feel like I want to let go of it because it's not lined up yet. So I still aim it before I draw it, so when I draw that it will be on target, but my drawing hand comes out and back in. So I used to draw straight back like this. I now transfer the load to my back earlier, and while the tip is still where I want it, the back of the arrow comes out and then under my eye, like this. Okay, anchor point. I used to anchor with my middle finger and the corner of my mouth. That's a soft tissue anchor. Thought it was great. What I found with some blank bail training, I'm better off with a hard tissue anchor, and I ended up the same place Ty Pelfrey talks about, by putting the C formed between your pointer finger and your thumb right behind your jawbone. And with that draw, it's really easy to slide right in there. You can feel if it's creeping, but it's consistent. And if you're, before, if my mouth would be open or something, it would move around. This is just a lot better, and it was easier to pull off the bow, and the bow would jump toward the target better, and it was, I think I'm more in line by just moving it back a little bit. Anchor is probably the worst term there is for this, because it's not, an anchor is not a stopping place. And when you quit thinking of it as a stopping place, but a starting place, your shooting is going to improve. Anchor, it's a consistent place you go to, but it's not a stopping place. You keep pulling all the time. You want to pull up and hold while the buck's head goes behind the tree. You want to be able to pull your bow to full draw, keep the tension on. It's not a resting place. You're still pulling. And when he comes back out, you pull even harder and pull it off. You want me to do a slow? It just felt so good I had to shoot it. I think a lot of people on this stage of the game overemphasize the aiming method. All these drills and exercises have nothing to do with your aiming method. It works for instinctive shooters, gap shooters, string walkers, face walkers, whatever you do. Point of aim, it doesn't matter. Form is going to give you a great shot no matter what your aiming method. And the aiming method really doesn't even enter into it. In fact, these coaches, they don't even talk about aiming. That's a given. You try them all, and the one that works best for you is the one you use. The aiming and the releasing of the arrow and the conclusion or follow through, this is where Larry and Rod start to differ a little bit. Larry's aiming, but he's doing it secondary. He's checking his form in his present mind, his subconscious is running the aiming for him. Rod believes in the opposite. He's immersed in aiming. Your conscious mind is on aiming and aiming only, and you're letting your subconscious run your form and run the shot. I can see why both ways work fine. As far as myself, I'm probably more immersed in aiming than anything, but I can also see Larry's side. If I'm up and I feel target panic creeping in or a little doubt, I might think about form or my conclusion to get through that rough spot. But I would say I'm 90%
aiming and maybe only 10% on form if with my conscious mind. Although my favorite aiming method is the gap aiming method, I prefer to call it a subconscious gap. I don't have to think 25 yards or 50 yards. I can do that and say, okay, I'm point on it such and such and raise it up. But I can also just pull up, look at what I want to hit, and the arrow will settle right there. That's the subconscious part. I think the subconscious is a very strong tool for a hunting archer. Release. A lot of coaches don't even like to talk about release because when you start thinking about it, you start initiating it and making it happen, and you shouldn't do that. It should just happen. I think a lot of us think of this and boom, we want to pull straight away from the target, but it's not that kind of a movement. It's a back tension movement, a circular almost. Al Henderson said, try and touch the archer behind you. And when you start thinking of it like that, it becomes a lot easier to come off the string. One of the things that gave me problems was anticipating the shot. I would initiate it with my fingers. And when you do that, your hand flies out. For me, I usually pulled everything and I hit to the right. By making it a circular motion and pulling like this, my hand won't go out. It's coming in, like if you watch Larry in slow motion, his finger slides right under his ear. And same with Rod, it comes back, boom, hits here. It's not like this. You don't want your hand to fly out and then back. I'm exaggerating it a little bit, but if you can just let it pull it right off the string and come around like this, you get rid of that plucking. When I touch my shoulder, come around, touch my shoulder, that's my conclusion now. Larry talked about flash images to aid him in shot execution and concentration. I picked up one along the way too that I use. It's from Rod Jenkins. Rod pulls to anchor, he's expanding, and bam, the bow goes off. And when I think of bam, it helps me go to my conclusion. I get a mental picture. Bam, 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 bam. I love doing bam. Bam! With blank veil shooting, your results might come in one day. You might have a eureka. I found the perfect conclusion. But chances are it's going to take a number of days, weeks, maybe even months. Your shooting pattern is going to be a little bumpy. As you find the pieces, it's going to smooth out. But when you find all the pieces, you're going to have a nice smooth line, and it's going to aid your shooting in the field or on the range. Don't make the mistake of assuming your broadheads fly like your field points. It just is good sense to shoot a few broadheads before season to make sure they're tuned perfectly. As a gap shooter, we always talk about aiming off the tip of the arrow. I think what we really do is we aim off the place where the shaft hits the head, be it a field point or a broadhead. That's easier to reference. You can't see the tip of the arrow of a broadhead or a field point when it's in a vertical plane with your eye, so it's an easy place to reference. What I do for low light shooting is I take a piece of white vinyl electrician's tape, put a little wrap right behind the head. In low light, it's easier to see the white band on the arrow and execute a good shot. One of the nice things about being a gap shooter is if you have limbs over your target or under your target, between you and the target, if I just pull up and shoot that target and don't think about it, I could hit the limb above it. But when I pre-aim, I pull up and I look at it, and if there's a limb close, I can look at that limb and say, would I hit that limb? If I wanted to hit that limb, where would I aim? If I'm a couple inches under where I would aim, I know I'm going to shoot under the limb. Canning the bow seems to be a hot topic these days. A lot of people think, well, he shoots with a vertical bow, that's target style. I don't agree with that. I think as a hunter, you ought to be able to shoot with a dead vertical bow or canted bow like this, or even flat. There's going to be a time you need all of those. If you don't feel comfortable with a vertical bow, you're going to give up a lot of shot opportunities. If you're in a tree stand, say this is a tree right here and I want to shoot out the back of the tree with a vertical bow, I can. Same thing on this side of the tree. If I have to camp my bow or I feel uncomfortable with it, I'm going to give up a lot of area in a tree stand or stalking or whatever. The key to canting is whatever position your bow is in, keep your head in that position. Shooting moving game is very doable. The key is you have to practice. And we're not talking about running, blind gallop game, but game that's walking or trotting easy in close range. A walking deer is going to be making a little noise. It's not going to hear the little things and not nearly as apt to jump the string or move out of the way. The way I shoot game moving or targets moving is to pull up on the target, looking at the spot I want to hit, and then I swing with it. And as you follow, you get the speed that you need to lead the animal and just let it happen. If you pull up early and try and shoot ahead of the game and time it, it's just not going to work nearly as well. Pull up on the target, stare at it, follow it, shoot the arrow, swing through with it, just like a shotgun. As you practice this, you'll be amazed at how accurate you can get. A rolling target like this is easy to set up. Just a cable and a couple of pulley wheels and a target. You can take a ball and kick it. You can throw a frisbee. A pop can tied to a fishing pole is a great way. Cast it out there, get out of the way so no one gets shot, and reel it in for your buddies. You'll be hitting things in no time.
With the knowledge gleaned from the masters, I will continue to refine my shooting for years to come. Traditional Vision Quest would like to again thank all the shooters and coaches for their valuable contributions. It is our sincere hope that the Master Series will help encourage many barebow archers and guide them on their quest for accuracy.
They're all dead. What the heck? That thing's dead 3 times. I hate groups.
Since 1957, Black Widow has been delivering quality custom bows to archers around the world. Today's precision designs and state-of-the-art equipment blend well with the detailed handwork of the custom bowyer's craft. Black Widow bows have passed the test for performance, strength, and perhaps the toughest test of all, The test of time. Time.
Shooting moving game is easily accomplished, but you must practice it. And I'm not talking animals that are running by with turpentine on their ass and on fire. We're talking, I probably ought not say that.
Stupid. The black-backed jackal gets revenge.
What does it mean to be the experts? What does it mean to be the most respected? What does it mean to be the world's largest? It means exceptional customer service, attention to detail, innovation, and craftsmanship. It means qualified professionals putting years of knowledge and experience to work for you. It means Three Rivers Archery, the experts, the most respected, the world's largest traditional and primitive archery supplier.
Improving as a let's see. Okay. All right. Working on perfecting my shot and throw the acorn. Oh man, I'm really screwing up.
I don't know, let me check here.
My hair okay?
Yeah, slick it down.
Okay.
Like the eyes that take aim. Like the arm that draws back. The Three Rivers Dala is an extension of the archer. The Three Rivers Dala.
Not gonna beat on me, are you?
No.
Okay.
Oh. And then we're going to put them back together and put them back in the box and no bloopers, guys.
Put him back in the box. You had me,
wait, we had him.
Where's he going with it? Nowhere.
And stop.
Predator. We build the bows, you build the memories.
You gotta hate those things. You know how many times they've boned us out here? It's gotta be a flight path.
You ever hit one of them things fire them cannons?
They can't hide from it. They can't run from it. They can't escape it. No animal on the planet is safe from the world's deadliest broadhead. The woodsman. The woodsman slices through hide and punches through bone, like no other broadhead on the market. Put the woodsman in your quiver and experience the power of the deadliest broadhead you'll ever shoot.
Does that make sense?
Any of this making any sense at all?
TradGang.com, the world's largest traditional-only cyberspace campfire for bow hunters. Join us at TradGang.com.
Oh, I shanked it. hate it when that happens.
Special thanks to Sitka, turning clothing into gear.
What sustained draw will give you is confidence in the shot, strength in the shot, and consistency. What were our 3 words again? Strength, control, and confidence. Which one did I leave confidence out?
Morel Targets, burning it up.
Say hello to my little friend.
If I pull the bow, I can feel the string hitting me right here on the man titty. Should I not say man titty?
Is that the best you can do?
That's it. I'm an old guy. What can I say?
Rod Jenkins is available for archery coaching and shooting clinics.
Never stop pulling. She's expanding the draw by pushing elbow this way.
Conclusion, back muscles. Back muscles. I just got a little nervous there and I forgot everything. It's starting to take a hold.
Believe me, everybody
The
we've
target panic.
NAA and NFAA Master Coach Len Cardinelli coaches all levels and disciplines of archery.
So what you talking about?
Comedy.
Comedy.
Here, I'll show you.
All right. Get your bow arm up. Get that damn head off. Come on. Draw it. Elbow back, 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 back. Oh, yeah. Okay.